Hello everyone, my name is Neversaw. I am a current Masters and Grandmaster's Peak mid laner, and today I wanted to go over some Neeko mechanics and tricks that you may not be aware about, and I believe honestly really change the limits of what you could do with this champion, especially as you go into higher ranks and these little details start mattering a lot more. I started learning Nico about 3.5 weeks ago, and I happened upon a lot of really interesting mechanics while I was researching info to improve my gameplay. And I decided that I wanted to go all in on learning these mechanics from the get go. And to my surprise, these mechanics have been very useful to me in my games in both solo queue and competitive. So I want to make this video to compile all this information together for all of you guys to take a look at, as well as provide actual video examples of me using these tricks and tips and whatever you want to call it in games to show that they actually have an actual purpose to them. This video does not plan on going over the general mechanics of Neeko. There are a lot of information guides out there, a lot of resources to learn how to play the champion and how to kind of pilot her base mechanics very well. The entire purpose of this video is to go over the keybinds, passive usage, W usage, and a little bit of a bonus ult trick I haven't really seen people use much, and that's pretty much the whole gist of it. There's really seriously a lot of great information out there if that's what you're looking for, but I am primarily looking to just push the limits of Neeko beyond what people already know. So the first thing that I'm going to go over are the keybinds. Now, these are going to be important because they range from being able to use your passive faster to being able to manipulate the clone more easily. So these are very important in my eyes to make sure that you bind them correctly. So I will go over where all of them are located. The first 5 keybinds you're going to want to look at are going to be over here with the champion interaction 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. These are going to correlate to each circle in your hotbar. Normally, this top left one is going to be the first champion on your team. The second is going to be your second champion, and then your third champion is going to be the fourth hotbar, and your fourth champion is going to be the fifth hotbar. And the reason there's that jump is because your third hotbar, this champion interaction 3, is actually going to be the whatever transformation that you have absorbed. So like right now I have Scuttle, so in an actual game when you have all your teammates, it will be bound to champion specific interaction 3. Please also ignore what my specific keybinds are actually saying. Use whatever is comfortable for you. I have a 12 button mouse that I've remapped what these actual numbers correlate to. So they correlate to really weird keys that I'm never going to press. But essentially for me, if I wanted to turn into a scuttle crab, I would use shift plus this really quickly. And for me, that's really efficient. So that's how I do that. Now, the second keybind you're going to want to look at is under the player movement. So this one may already be bound. I honestly cannot remember if I modify this or not, but you're going to want to take this move pet click and make sure you have it bound as something that will be comfortable to use a lot of clicks for. This will be important for controlling the clone, which as you can see, it mentions here that the clone can be controlled using move pet click hotkey. You can see I can either use W to control this, or I can use Alt plus right click. You can see that I'm using the Alt. Oh, don't mind me putting that over there, but you can use like this, like that. There we go. I got there in the end, and it will work like that. You can actually see a better example like that. You can see it only starts moving me once the clone goes away. So that's the importance of binding that. And again, whatever is going to feel comfortable for you is going to be what's important. The third keybind that you're going to want to bind is going to be toggle. You're going to want this over here under communications bound to something that you will have quick and easy access to. And I will explain in a little bit exactly what toggle will do, but it is very, very important that you have this bound to a very easy to access button. It will save you a lot of headache later down the line. Now that I've gone over the important keybinds for Neeko, we can start diving into the actual mechanics I want to show you guys. So the first one is going to be very straightforward, the W basic usage. You can move it around with W, you can move it around with the move pet click, and you may have seen this in pro play or some of your solo queue matches, but you can also use the Joe command to turn it into a helicopter, or you can use recall to fake the recall from the clone. This also serves the added purpose of adding extra timer to the clone beyond when it would normally last. So instead of lasting for 3 seconds, you can see that this is going to last somewhere around 10 seconds total, and it's going to give vision the entire time, which is an amazing thing to have in any elo, but especially as you get into the higher elos, this kind of vision can be game winning. Now, before I delve further into the mechanics, I'm going to show you guys what the toggle key is used for. So normally, when you use the clone and you want to do the joke, it will turn both Neekos into helicopters, which is pretty standard behavior. The annoying part is that it's going to stutter step, and it will also cancel whatever movement command you have. Very not flowy at all. So what the toggle button is going to do for you is while you throw the clone and you press toggle, it will not make you start helicoptering, and instead only the clone will do that. And you can see that if I do this long click, let's say this direction, put the W here, absolutely no stutter step. I'm going to go to the location just fine. So this is going to be very useful in actually kind of making your ability usage very clean. You can do something as simple as this. If you're walking into lane, you can see I'm not even looking at it, and I can just press the toggle key and it'll just exist. So now with this knowledge, what we can do is a really fun trick where if you send the clone and it starts helicoptering, you'll notice it cannot move. But if you use move pet click and click on any enemy, so in this case, let's use this raptor actually real quick as an example. I'm using move pet click, and it will just fly over to the raptors. This will work on enemy turrets. You can see I can do this, and there goes the clone, and it's just gonna survey the whole area and even gets the tri-bush for me. And it will also follow yourself. If you move pet click on yourself, it will follow you. As you can see here, you can be running away and you can dodge like a thresh hook, Ezreal, Mystic Shot, you know, any of those kind of abilities that are straight skill shots you can actually deal with by just putting this clone behind you, and it will just follow. It will not follow your allies, and it will not go to turrets like this. You can see I'm trying to move pet click, but it won't. As soon as I click on this, oh, there it goes. Now, to take this one step further, what we're going to do is we're going to do a little trick where you press W to send out the clone, and you're going to want to cast Q or E at the same time as you press the toggle key. And what's going to happen is it's going to play that little Q animation like that. You'll notice it still sticks around, and I can control it like it's me now. Now this is where the fun really begins with what you can do with this mechanic. As you can see, I can trigger it with both the E, both the Q, and it'll just walk wherever I want, and it'll last the full extended roughly 7 seconds duration, and I can just send it as if it's me. So this is going to be extremely useful in specifically scouting areas. It's very easy to activate. Like, I can do it extremely consistently. All you have to do is press W and then just one of your spells plus toggle at the same time, and it'll just work pretty much every single time. I've yet to have issues with this. So normally if you send this W out and it takes damage, it doesn't matter if it extends the duration, it's just gonna die. But if you do the trick that I showed you, obviously it's dying very quick because these minions are very angry, but as you can see, it actually will last for the entire duration even when it tanks damage. And this extends to things like dragons. So normally, even if you extend the duration, if this clone is chilling here, it's just gonna die like that, right? But if you do the trick that I mentioned, and then have the clone start taking damage, you will see that it just doesn't go away. And this can be used on Baron, it can be used on Dragon. It won't really work on monsters because they just aren't very receptive to hitting anything that they don't want to actually hit. Let me just turn off minions before I start getting into a last hit spree. And that's pretty much like the general use of it, is you can just kind of go wherever you want. And this will also apply if you're transformed. One of the video examples I actually have showcases what you can do with this, where if I wanted to, I can do this, But the teammate, imagine this is a teammate. I can only turn it into a wrist because I'm in practice tool. But I can just walk here and pretend that I am someone I am not, which has a lot of application uses. The last thing I will mention, of course, is just like the other variant where you can have it follow you, this one can also just block skill shots. So I also have a video example of that later. Really quick edit that I realized that I didn't actually show every mechanic you can do with the W. There's one more specific one where if you do the W plus Q in emote, if you recall at the same time, so I'll do this here, and you recall, you can start recalling, but you can control this clone for basically the entire duration. Now there is something important to note. In the last roughly second or so of your recall, or if your clone fades away, if you are just clicking like this, the move pet click will decide to move you and cancel your recall. So don't spam too much clicking if the clone vanishes for whatever reason, or the duration is about to expire on the clone. It will cancel your recall, so be careful about that, but this can be very useful to pretty much fake out if you're actually still there or not. For the rest of this video, I will be referring to the aforementioned trick as the clone trick. I also want to go over a little W mechanic that some people may know about, and it's a pretty straightforward mechanic that the W will not block skill shots or not be targeted by anything for half a second. Once it is visible, it will now be targeted, and you can use this to run with the clone to make it through turrets like that. You can also use this as a great way of taking turret shots so you can stop someone's recall. So if I waited half a second, I can do that. And I just got out of tower completely unscathed while also stopping the recall, while normally they would be in a very safe recall location. The next interaction I wanted to talk about, I won't be able to show you guys in the practice tool as it requires opponents and I have none currently. And this will be going over the minion dodge mechanics, essentially the abilities that you can dodge by turning into a minion. The caveat with this is that minion transform as well as just Neeko's transforms in general will not be available if you have taken damage recently. I think it's within like the last 3 seconds or so. But if you have hit an enemy, you can still transform. So mostly just making sure that you don't take damage before you do this. I will be linking a spreadsheet below that goes over all the abilities that you can actually dodge, but unfortunately I won't be able to show those mechanics beyond a single clip that I managed to get from one of my Flex Q games that I played. The last mechanic I'm going to show you guys in the practice tool is going to be the ultimate trick that I mentioned earlier. This is going to be a very big asset for targets that cannot escape your Pop Blossom, but they have abilities such as Cleanse, or they have a large amount of tenacity that could help them potentially dodge the Tango Barbs into Blooming Burst combo. If you do it like this, there's a little bit of a duration that people could get out of it, and that can be game losing. So the way that this mechanic works is very, very simple actually. You just use your ability right before the Pop Blossom goes off, and you'll see that the Blooming Burst goes off while my animation for Pop Blossom is going on. You can tie this with the Tangle root as well, Tangle Barbs, I know my spell names, and you can even combo them both together if you're really quick about it, and you can see how much different it is. Your CC duration is not going to be as good, but your raw burst ability, if I can do this correctly, is going to be through the roof, as during the entire duration that the opponents are airborne, there is nothing that they can do, and they will have to simply eat the full brunt of the damage, or they have to get out of it before the Pop Blossom throws them up into the air. I do have a video example that I can show later of this actually meaning a pretty big difference, or potentially a very big difference, in why it can be extremely useful. From that, I am now going to go over to the video clips that I have and show you guys some examples of my games where this stuff, pretty much all the things that I went over, have helped me in some way or another. For the first video clip, I want to showcase pretty much a very basic example of how you can use the clone trick to kind of mess with people's brains and reveal locations, bait abilities. Sometimes if you're lucky, you'll bait ultimates. I believe I actually have a video clip that I can show later of that. But this is a very essentially basic example from a tryouts that I played in a while back, where the entire thing that happens here is I use the clone trick, W plus Q plus emote. It's going to throw that out. I'm going to walk over here, and the entire positions of the enemy team shows there. And they really thought that that was the actual me. My teammates thought that that was the actual me for a moment. Very, very convincing that at least it was non-zero odds that it's me. No one really sees the clone walk around like this. I'm sure if like this stuff becomes more relevant, like more well used, people will start becoming a little more careful about it. But of course, you have to be careful of the fact that perhaps this is just a Neeko running in with a team somewhere that you don't see, and they're just going to ult you all into oblivion. Who knows? It's a very big mind games thing, and that's kind of the whole point of a lot of these tricks is they can play very effective mind games and really mess with the perception of your opponents, and what they see is not reality, but maybe it is. Who knows? Now, for the second clip, I'm going to showcase how this ability can block skill shots, and this is pretty self-explanatory. I also use the clone trick with the thing that I mentioned earlier, where you can turn into a teammate, and by turning into a teammate, you look like them. And as you saw in that clip, while I was talking through it, my jungler kind of ran forward, got a little bit caught, and the Rengar clone that I created perfectly blocks the Briar ultimate. I got a little lucky that this just barely didn't time out. It timed out basically right as it got hit, which is perfect timing. But this kind of like saves the game essentially. This Briar is very fed, and the fact that my teammate didn't get hit by a very important global skill shot is huge. And this is a very, very basic trick that you could do, that you just literally use the clone trick and just throw it in front of people, and it will just eat skill shots, which can also be a bad thing. Be a little bit careful with that one. The third video clip is going to demonstrate how you can use the clone trick to pretty much bait your enemies into using global abilities or just ultimates in general while you're trying to do side lanes. The enemy team has Syndra and Nocturne. I believe in a moment ago on the map, if you looked, there's a Nocturne coming on the map. And since my team's doing Rift Herald, it's pretty clear that they're probably going to make a play on me. So I do the clone trick, and as you can see, they actually use not just the Nocturne ult, but once the vision clears, Syndra ult as well. And all I did was I just used the clone trick, made it look like I was walking up, and I'm like, oh no, I got hit by a stun. I'm griefing by being greedy. In reality, I was just trying to get the Nocturne to ult me because I know he's on my side of the map. And in a competitive game like this is absolutely game winning to do something like this. And pretty much their tempos is gone. 18 minutes, Syndra Nocturne ult down is really, really rough. And they're not really going to be able to get much done as a result. For the fourth video clip, I have an example from a flex queue game that I played, which will both demonstrate how you can use the clone to tank Baron, as well as the minion dodge trick that you can do. So I will let this play, and you'll see here in a moment that I send out the clone, do the little trick, and it's just going to tank Baron. It's going to take like 2 hits, 3 hits. It's a little hard when you have melee champs that are a little close, but it took like a good 3 hits, which in a lot of cases could be huge. And the second part of this is going to be the minion dodge trick, which, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry for the visual fry on that. I forget that this video is awful with that. Bear with me here. I will try not to rewind this again. But as you're going to see in a moment, the Fizz is going to come walking up. He's like, okay, I can throw an ult at this Neeko and at least burn the Zhonya's, or maybe get a kill if I'm lucky. I just turn into a minion, and it goes right through me as if it doesn't exist. And it just lands on the ground, very sad. And this poor Fizz doesn't really get to do much more. And I think there's one more example somewhere in there where I was also tanking Baron for a little bit. But that's pretty much the gist of it, that you can both tank Baron with the clone trick for an extended period of time, as well as an example of actually using the minion dodge and dodging key abilities. You can do this in lane pretty reliably against the Fizz, as long as you don't take damage. If Fizz tries sniping you with a longer range ult, just tap the button that turns you into a minion, and it will just go right past you. No slow, no attach, none of that. Again, highly recommend looking at the spreadsheet for the exact list of every ability that can be dodged and how they specifically interact with Neeko. The fifth clip, my personal favorite of the bunch of clips that I have here, and honestly just one of my most favorite mechanics that you can actually do, is turning into a teammate and using that to lull your opponents into a false sense of security because they think they know where everyone is. In this example, I am going to utilize the Ashe here, which of course has a very powerful ultimate, but it can be really easy to dodge it, Zhonya's cleanse it, whatnot from, if they can see it. So one of the main things is that if they don't see Ashe, everyone's like on high alert that, oh no, there could be an enchanted crystal arrow flying at my face any second, and I don't know from what angle. So I abuse this to maximum potential in this clip. As you'll see, I turn into Ashe, but I'm also myself. And so I walk up with the two of us, and now it looks like there's two of us here. But as we clearly know, based on the map, Ashe is down there on the right side, not with me. And so what's going to end up happening is this poor Karthus thinks he knows where Ashe is, and he's going to get hit by an arrow that is like 70, what is that, like 80 degrees perpendicular? I don't know, I haven't done math in a while, but anyways, that's not particularly relevant, but it's still like almost a 90-degree perpendicular that it's like angle. You know what, I'm just gonna leave it at that. You guys can correct me if you want. I don't know my math anymore. Anyways, it's the diverting from the actual point that this arrow is coming at an angle he was not prepared for, and as such he gets hit by it. I'm going to get the root, which is going to force the Seraphine to use the Mikhails, and it's also going to send him back to base while we're in a Baron Siege, which is really big. But on top of that, this Gallia is going to get caught up in it as well and have to... I don't think the clip shows it. But this guy's going to burn Zhonya's, and he flashes out afterwards as well, which pretty much seals the deal that we just got a ton of cooldowns for basically nothing. Like, we just used an Ashel, and we got two, what was it, a Zhonya's, a Mikhail's, and a Flash for completely free. And all it took was just making them think that there was an Ashe in lane with me and we were both just chilling. And instead, Ashe just slams him with an arrow on the right side of the map. So this one has some of the most potential, I think, for usage, especially in solo queue. It's a little bit harder to pull off in competitive comparatively, but if you sell it really well, you can really mess with people's perceptions of who actually is where. The sixth and final clip I wanted to show is just a very quick example of what it actually looks like when you pull off the full burst ultimate combo where you use your E and your Q at the same time as your ultimate goes off to pretty much full burst the target while they're unable to get out of the crowd control. In this example, I believe the Draven doesn't have Cleanse or Flash available. I don't honestly remember. It's been a little while. But if he did have it available, this kind of comboing could make a huge difference. And especially into targets that also have like maybe high tenacity, that will also make a difference. And any cleanses like Mikhail's, any of that kind of stuff. So you're going to see the absolute crazy amount of damage. Obviously, I'm also really fed, so it makes sense that I one-shot. You'll see this Draven just explodes in a heartbeat. And if I did any of their combo, this Draven would not have died as fast. But you'll see that as the Pop Blossom winds up with about 0.3 seconds, I cast Tango Barb. I'm now in the air, and at the same time I'm flying into the air, I fire off the Blooming Burst. And you can see he is now airborne, right? He's taking a bit of damage from Ashe, but I've already thrown out all three of my spells, and he's stuck in airborne. There is nothing he can do at this point except me missing my spells, right? As you'll see, the Tangle Roots hit him as the Pop Blossom's going up. The Blooming Burst finishes. It's going to hit him for some damage, and then finally the Pop Blossom comes slamming down, and he just dies. So this is a really good visual example of just how much burst damage you can do, especially if you're fed in a game, and just how important it is to utilize the fact that, of course, there is no escape from it during that 0.6 seconds of airborne. Literally nothing they can do, and you can just full burst them so fast that they will have no idea what the heck just happened. And that's going to be the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this video. I hope there's a lot of information, or even just a little bit of information, even the littlest bit that was new to you guys, anything that you can really take away from this and use in your games to really push the limits of Neeko further. Any of that would be a success in my books. I also want to thank Coach Curtis for initially giving me this idea. I showed him one of the clips of I think it was the Neeko Ashe interaction, the one where the Ashel came from the side. And he told me that I should make a video about it. So here we are. A video is made. And if there's anything that's kind of like not working properly, anything's outdated, like maybe Riot decides to change the mechanics down the line, or if I missed anything, any of this kind of stuff, anything to like maybe improve this if I do like an updated guide in the future, whatever, whatnot, feedback, positive, negative, whatever things, just kind of put that in the comments below. Or if you have me on Discord, you can reach out there. I don't really know what else to say other than that. I'm really bad with doing any of this kind of outro stuff, but seriously, thank you guys for watching this, and I really do hope that this helped you guys either do better in your games as Neeko, or if you play against Neeko, I hope you have a better understanding of what you can really do with this champ and how to maybe avoid a bit of the mental shenanigans. Maybe I'll make another one of these videos for another champ in the future. I don't know. See you guys around.